Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports.
Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports with Tyler Drake and Lauren Koval.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Cardinals Corner, or should I call it for the past week or so, cold corner, coughing corner, any sickness whatsoever, because thank you to Dave Burns for filling in for me on Sunday post-game down there at Cardinal Stadium, because I was a little under the weather. Tyler's now a little under the weather, and he's live from home, so if there's a coughing break in the middle of this, I already do apologize. We're both a little ill. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, Tyler, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm don't have it as bad as my daughter Brady, so hopefully she can kick it quicker than I can, but we're here. Got to talk Cardinals. We've got to get you up to speed after what happened on Sunday. Didn't even get to hear what you thought about it. Wanted to wait till we got to this podcast to talk about it. But before that, how are you feeling? How's everything going on your end?
Luckily for me, I've turned the corner, so I have made it through the bad part, and now I am just getting to the very end of this. Doesn't seem like the same can be said for you.
No, it seems like this is I feel like the Cranberries song. It's just lingering. Just has to let it linger.
But in this case, what's lingering is not your feelings, but your sickness. So that's not great.
No. Okay, so let's talk some football. Let's get back before we kind of dive into bye week stuff. It's the bye week. There's no wins or losses coming to the Cardinals' way, which is probably good news given what we've seen the last couple of weeks. But what was your overall takeaway from the previous game, previous loss, a fifth straight loss, one score loss, whatever you want to call it?
Deja vu. It felt like I'd seen that. I mean, week after week after week, the Cardinals have lost 5 straight games by 13 points. I mean, facepalm is basically your only reaction to that statistic, because that would make you feel like either the Cardinals are really close and really in these games and they feel super involved in them. If I'd heard that stat without having watched any of the games, I'd be like, wow, the Cardinals are playing competitive football. They just kind of have to turn the corner and have a few things click. That's not how I feel at all after watching these games, though, because in a lot of ways, they've lost them on their own by their poor performance late in the fourth quarter. And against the Packers was exactly the same thing we've seen week after week.
Yeah, almost a spinning image to what we saw in that Colts loss too. And even with Jacoby Brissett doing what he's doing, hanging in there and making the offense look better than what it's looked like throughout the rest of the season, still not good enough. So there's clearly more things that are going on beyond the quarterback talk that has taken over this team in recent weeks and could maybe only continue if we don't see a good performance from Kyler Murray, who it's not 100% confirmed yet, but I would expect him to come back Monday Night Football against Dallas, in Dallas, a place where he knows how to play very well. And then we'll see the next kind of chapter of this potential quarterback saga that everybody likes to talk about right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a place that Kyler Murray's never lost. It's a place he feels comfortable in, even playing in high school. If you need a get-right place for Kyler Murray on Monday night after being out for a few weeks, the Dallas Cowboys are kind of the perfect opportunity for that. Also, the Dallas Cowboys have been on a roller coaster ride this season. I mean, if you want to compare it to other opponents the Cardinals have already played, they played the Packers, brought it to overtime, and then tied.
Wild.
Which just felt like the biggest waste of time in the NFL. I don't know why we still allow ties, but that is for a whole other podcast. But the Cowboys defense has been absolutely struggling this season in ways to prevent the long ball, easy things right at the sticks. The running game, they've been decent at, but there's room for improvement there. I mean, they've got Matt Eberflus over there, who everybody knows I'm far too well versed in, and he hasn't done the best job over there with the Cowboys. He's like a reverse Clayton Adams. Like,
Oh,
They're going in opposite directions with the same team. So this would be the time for Kyler to really connect those dots coming back and show that the offense can look like it does with Jacoby Brissett with him in there. And if it doesn't, case closed for me. Like, done.
yeah. 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 I mean, it really is. It's this, and I don't want to go too far with it, but it feels like this could be a career-altering kind of start for Kyler Murray. Like, there's a potential there that we do see what everybody else is seeing. Like, it is on the tape of, yeah, Jacoby Brissett is running this offense better than Kyler, or we see the complete opposite where Kyler gets back in the saddle, they work through things, they get this offense where we expected it to be, maybe the run game kicks up a little bit, and he shuts the door on a lot of that talk. And I think moving forward throughout the rest of the season, that talk's not going to get brought up as much, but it's definitely, it can really go one or two ways, and it's a very big crossroads at this point that could only get worse if he really doesn't go out there and perform on prime time in a place where he's done it before. It's going to be really, really interesting, but it's not. And I like that you brought up the Clayton Adams things, because that has just stood out to me of like, all right, we're going to see really this run game that the Cardinals used to have potentially going against them now in heading into that primetime game. So name drop there. But before we get fully into the game, what are the changes that you want to see in the bye week that maybe they can get something out of to turn the tide? Because clearly what they're doing right now is not working. 5-game losing streak, however close it is, it's a 5-game losing streak. They don't know how to win football games. This team is not where it should be. It's not going where it should be. It's not expected to get to where it should be at this point. I mean, this was supposed to be the easy part of their schedule. They're 2-5, and 2-5 football teams don't necessarily make the playoffs at the end of the day. So when you're looking at just some of the biggest issues this team has right now, where in the bye week do you think they can try to remedy some of them?
A 2-5 team too, who everybody else in their division is the exact opposite. They're 5-2. They're finding ways to win. They're winning these close ones. And sometimes they're stomping teams into the ground. I mean, we even saw what the Seahawks just did on Monday night against the Texans. It wasn't pretty, but the Seahawks got a definite win over them. So areas I'm looking for the Cardinals to improve right away off the top of my mind that you can actually make a change with is offensive line. Because the offensive line has been nothing short of pitiful the past few weeks in terms of not being able to block Micah Parsons, somebody who you have like a gold star on as a team as you're prepping. This guy is going to get what he wants. How do we stop him from getting what he wants? Well, that didn't happen at all. He had the most tackles and pressures he's had in a single game this season against the Cardinals. So you can't say that you prepped effectively to face Micah Parsons when you're allowing that to happen. And there are actual changes the Cardinals can make at offensive line that are simple or easy, or just start switching people's positions around. Give Kelvin Beachum a start and throw him in there and see what he can do. Shift Will Hernandez's position around. At this point, I'd even be like, maybe Jonah Williams needs to take a seat, and do we bring Isaiah Adams back in? I mean, at this rate, it's like, what sort of puzzle pieces need to shift to make the offensive line look a little bit better? Because that is fundamentally where so much of this offensive game plan starts for the Cardinals. If you don't have a solid blocking offensive line, you can't get the run game going. If you can't get the run game going, you're putting too much pressure on Kyler Murray. If you're putting too much pressure on Kyler Murray, we immediately see him get frazzled in the pocket, and then he tries to run for something. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If we haven't set something up in play action, then he's going to get sacked when you're going up against a team with a solid defensive line. And it feels like that is where right now my eyes are drawn to, is fix your offensive line problems, especially in this bye week where you have the opportunity to shift and play with everything, because you don't have to face anybody this week. So go up and see what actually works for you right now.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of maybe switching out Kelvin for Jonah. But then you look at it, what are they going to do at tight end? Blocking tight end, because that's been Kelvin Beacham's job since Travis Vokolek's gone out, Tip Ryman's got out. So then you start looking and having to get another piece for that. And it's going to be interesting, but there's pieces to do it. Maybe John Gaines becomes more of that blocking tight end moving forward. And there's just a lot of different ways to do it. But like you said, I like that. I think moving some pieces around on the offensive line is key. I mean, look at Jacoby Brissett. He did his job the last 2 weeks, but he got beat up. I mean, that's a lot of quarterback hits for anybody. And you said it best. I mean, Kyler Murray, he's going to get frazzled when he's under pressure and try to get out of the pocket, try to do things with his legs. And maybe he slides and gets a sack. Maybe he throws the ball away. Who knows? But whoever is running the show cannot be getting beat up that much. So it's got to start there. Looking at it again, I think potentially getting some reinforcements back is going to help too. And maybe that's just one. Maybe it's Walter Nolan. Maybe it's Kyler Murray. Maybe it's both of them. But Walter Nolan's probably going to be close, if not there, for a potential return for prime time. And that should help with the defensive line and its depth and just really the defense in general. They just need something to help close out games. Anything to help right now. If it's more focus, more mental, I don't know. But I mean, Calais Campbell after the game last week was frustrated. You could tell they've got to play till the whistle. They got to play to the end of the whistle. They got to play every game, every snap like it's their last. And that's really got to pour over into the rest of the year, because every time it seems like the same song and dance. Like you said, it's just a mirror image of just another one-score loss, giving the ball up late, not stopping the offense late, and it's just got to change somewhere.
Because the best player on your team can't be Calais Campbell. And that's how it's been. And that's the expectation that I think Cardinals fans have of him now, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it, is that that's your best guy out there right now. Well, he's probably going to retire.
And here's the thing, too, is if things keep continuing to go the way they're going.
I know where you're going with this.
Look out, because this awesome return that Calais Campbell's had with the Cardinals could be short-lived, because if he wants to go win with the contender before he calls it quits and the Cardinals are nowhere near a playoff spot by the trade deadline, it's a possibility they'll get something for him, because he's playing out of his mind. Like you said, he's one of their best players on defense, on the team in general, and that's where it's like it would be an absolute travesty to bring this guy back, to have the return he's having, only to trade him away to get future assets. That would be brutal. And if it happens that way, that's where you know that this team's headed for another rebuild, because that's kind of the precedent they're setting right there.
The only thing I can say to that is like a dramatic eye roll, because I saw it mocked for the first time earlier this week that the Cardinals trade Calais Campbell at the trade deadline. Oh. And I was like, no, I don't even want to talk about that yet. I don't even want to broach that idea, because what a happy sort of song and dance his return has been so far. And to think that the Cardinals could basically flush it down the toilet where we're at so far in the season is abysmal. Now, turning to focus on something I think the Cardinals can focus on this bye week, while also throwing in a hint of a Dallas Cowboys preview, is George Pickens has been getting his own with the Cowboys. I mean, he has been showcasing elite skills for them. Something that I don't think we've seen from him his entire career. He's one of the few guys that you saw sign with the Cowboys and you were like, okay, that could work. If Dak figures, out what he needs to, that could work. It's absolutely worked. It's been stellar for them. His downfield pass ability has been incredible. And I think that ties into something that the Cardinals need to focus on this bye week is you go up against the Packers wide receivers who are solid. They're young, they're talented, but they're not elite. And they're not guys who know how to bully defenders into penalties. George Pickens is great at that. Getting his defender in a position where he's not turned around looking at the ball. He's got his hands on him by the time the ball gets there. He has breakneck speed off the line that if you're not with him right away, you're already losing him downfield. And downfield, right past about the 15-yard marker from the line of scrimmage, is I think where the Cardinals DBs start to struggle. In these downfield situations where either they're grabbing, they're pulling, they're not turned around, they get confused, there's zone coverage and a guy somehow right in the middle of the field and you're like, okay, you're like in front of him, but also behind him, but neither of you are really going for the ball here. And George Pickens is someone who will make you pay for your mistakes. So I'm looking for the Cardinals DBs this bye week to sort of go out there with Marvin Harrison Jr. and go out there with Michael Wilson, go out there with Zay Jones and start throwing around and see what you can do. In that case, just to make sure that you're not shooting yourselves in the foot like the Cardinals have loved to do this season with penalties downfield that end up being pass interference calls for huge yardage. Because I could see that happening to these Cardinals DBs, and that's something I'm focusing on in this bye week and heading into the Cowboys game.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know who I would love to also see get back in the mix that I think would really help in that regard? Garrett Williams.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's going to be for Monday Night Football, but they did say he would return this year. He was back on the practice field recently this month, getting a little bit work off to the side. So that's a good sign. That's a good forward progress there. And if he can get back sooner than later, that would only help with that because, it's going to be a tough task. So that would be the one like, oh, man, that would like dark horse return, prime time. That would be such a huge boost for this team because he's one of those guys that can really help keep those guys in check, I think, because like we've said time and time again, he's CB1 on this team until further notice. I think Will Johnson's well on his way to becoming that, but he also had a rough game last week, and I don't think that's completely on him. I think the refs, they love to throw the laundry last week. I think he had a couple of penalties, at least 4 penalties, I believe. Just a rough go right there, but I do think he's well on his way. He's had a good season outside of being injured. But, Garrett Williams would be a good addition as well. I just don't know if it's going to be quick enough for Monday Night Football. So, really focus on, and really, those wideouts, get aggressive with these cornerbacks and make sure they are not going too far over to where you are going to get those calls. You might not have given up the huge catch, but if you give up a 30-yard pass interference, just as bad.
No, it's not as good. And I'll save my thoughts on the run game and how you're going up against your old friend Clayton Adams in that way and what he's done with Javonte Williams this season for the preview pod, because there will be a lot to dissect in that one next week. But anything else you want to focus on this bye week?
No, I think just like the Cardinals, we need to rest and recharge and reset for the rest of the year because how it's going, it's going to be pretty wild. It's going to be potentially rocky. And I think we need prepared for all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I think we've seen a lot of that through the first 7 weeks of the season. And it's going to be tough. The strength of schedule says so itself, and I very much see that. I think they're going to be close in a lot of these games moving forward, but close is not going to get it done. They've got to figure out how to be on the other side of these losses, especially when they come down to the wire. I've heard all these past couple of weeks, 70% of the games come down to one score. They've been in 70% of those games every week and have only won 2 of them. They've got to figure it out. They cannot be on the outside of these numbers. And we got to see what that looks like moving forward. And it starts with Monday Night Football with potentially Kyler Murray coming back. Can he alleviate? Can he remedy everything? I don't think so. But he might be able to give them a jolt that could maybe turn things around for the better.
Or now we're looking at this going, is Kyler Murray the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals' future? And I think now everybody in the Valley, and I think Kyler Murray knows it too, you're playing for your job. And if that doesn't turn out for you, we start to look towards the draft and what pick are the Cardinals going to have and what QBs are out there. And that is an ugly turn for a team that we thought was going to turn it around this year in a rebuild. And so far, they're nowhere near that. They're not near our expectation. I picked them sitting here months ago to go 7-10. And I said,
that might be a reach at this point.
I know. And I said, you've got to prove to me that you're not the teams of past. And the second you do, I'll believe it. And the first 2 weeks in the season, I was optimistic. I was going, maybe I'm wrong. And now I'm sitting here going, how are we doing this all over again? How are we sitting through the pain of this again? Because you can watch other teams in the NFL you thought were in a rebuild too, similar to yours. And those teams have turned it around this year. And they're starting to show what they are, especially in an NFL, just generally speaking, that is wide open this year. There is really no top dog. There's no undefeated team. There's nobody that you look at and go, ooh, if you can beat them, you're serious, or they're making it to the Super Bowl. And it feels all the more defeating for Cardinals fans to see how wide open it is and see that your team still isn't in that conversation, even though it's wide open.
Yep, and yep.
Well, with that yep, and yep, I think it's best that we go get some rest and that we enjoy all of the Sudafed, Robitussin, Advil, Tylenol that is out there for us so that we can rest up and be ready for next week for the preview pod with the Cowboys, where hopefully we're sitting in here not coughing and sneezing on each other. I think that sounds good.
Yep. Sounds great to me.
All right. Well, this bye week, be sure to tune into everything that Tyler's cranking out, because even though he's sick, there are no off weeks, even though it's a bye week. So you can catch up on everything on ArizonaSports.com. You can follow Tyler at TDrake for Sports. You can follow this podcast at AZ Cards Corner. And you can follow me at Koval_Lauren. And with that, be sure to tune in, not on Sunday, but next week, where we preview a huge Monday night matchup against the Dallas Cowboys and most likely Kyler Murray's return to the Arizona Cardinals. So with that, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.